We are so excited that you're back with us for another episode of Meet My Mississippi Authors and Artists. And I'm telling you, I have the most fabulous friends. I love to introduce you to all the wonderful Mississippi authors and artists, and we have not disappointed again today. Today we have with us, you know, I love to let them just introduce themselves straight to you. So tell the people who you are and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Valerie Fairley. I'm originally from Moorhead, Mississippi. I've just been transplanted to Collins, Mississippi. I've been in the education profession for 27 years, elementary teacher and a librarian. Primarily in the Mississippi Delta area. I publish books to help children with their reading scores because we know here in the state of Mississippi the scores are not where they should be. But as an educator with an endorsement in reading, I published a couple of books that I think will help children in the state of Mississippi.
Oh, we love that. You know, a woman after my own heart. She is a woman after my own heart. And as you can see, fabulous, okay, fabulosity in the house.
Yes,
So here
and
we
I really want to thank you for inviting us here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I always try to go back to every guest that I have to see how we met or how we got to know each other. And most, I would say 95% of them, the people I met on Facebook.
That's correct.
So we met on Facebook because I like to know every Mississippi author. I can't know them all, but I try to know every nook and cranny. I want to know everybody who writes in Mississippi, your books and your story. And I saw you in your book. The first book is what? Was it Denver's or which one was first?
Well, A is for Abigail.
Okay, so then I love to talk about children, so I saw the book and I was like, okay, in Moorhead, Mississippi. I had never been to Moorhead at that time, but then I looked up and it's got ABCs and all that stuff in the book, and I was like, I fell in love with the book, and look at the beautiful colors. So it definitely go with literacy. Now, let us go back. You were born in
Moorhead, Mississippi, in Sunflower County, Mississippi.
Okay, and you went to high school where?
At Gentry High School.
Okay,
Mighty Rams.
Okay.
Yes.
I always tell people, hey, shout out to your school.
Yes.
So we want everybody to know, that's my classmate or whatever. And then where did you get your degree?
I got my undergrad and bachelor's of elementary education at Mississippi Valley State University. I got a master's in special education and elementary education at Delta State, and a specialist at Delta State University in education as well.
Oh, we love that. We need that.
Yes,
we definitely need that. So tell us your heart for writing this children's book.
First of all, my mother was an educator. She taught me in the 3rd grade, and I've always been passionate about reading. Mm-hmm. And as we began to progress within the educational profession, I noticed that the children's reading scores and just reading levels were not up to par, and it was due to basically their vocabulary. Mm-hmm. Our state tests and our other mandates are basically based on good sound vocabulary. Mm-hmm. So anytime I would ask the child, I would say, well, what is a word that begins with an A? 99% said apple. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering why weren't they saying avocado, other words that were indicative of that. So at the back of this book, we have words that they can say like avocado, asparagus. They can expand the vocabulary.
Yes.
And anchovies and then beef burritos instead of saying the basic words. So my goal was to expand students' vocabulary.
Y'all, this is definitely, she's an educator, so she knows, but I just posted something on Facebook about this, that the kids don't have the vocabulary to understand some of the things that are in that test.
That's correct.
Like one of the tests or one of the pre-tests, they were talking about Subway, and the kids had no concept of Subway being an underground,
that's absolutely
travel. Correct. All they could relate to was Subway restaurant.
Yes.
And I said, I never thought of that.
Yes.
So words, we need to expand our children's vocabulary.
That's the number one thing that we need to do in their reading comprehension. Research has shown that the reading comprehension will go up after vocabulary.
Because if they have no clue how to associate the words to what it's talking about, they're lost, period.
Yes. And at the back of this sort of workbook, they can expand their vocabulary, write their own words. But of course, I'm a full-figure queen of the South, so I basically use food words.
Okay.
And I found out another thing: our children don't have any concept of social studies. We used to learn the 50 states, the capitals, and they're not even familiar with that. And a lot of people from my area have not even gone outside of their area to travel. Some have, but the majority hasn't. So that's the reason I said, like, A is for Abigail. She is from Albuquerque.
Okay.
So and then we went to the map and found these various locations.
Oh, my
so
goodness.
it's like a workbook, reading, social studies, all tied into one. And I will be coming out with an expanded version of this sometime this year because we have a few corrections that we need to make within the book, but these books are available on Amazon. And I want to create a cheaper version of this as well. But
so
that was my goal. Yes, I would like to see this like your book should be in the hands of the children.
Every child in Mississippi.
Every child should have this book as well, especially lower elementary. They will automatically become smarter. My grandson, he began to say other words besides apple, avocado. His vocabulary is advanced now by just simply using this book, and I dedicated that book to him because it's my first grandson. So that is my goal, especially to see the children of the Mississippi Delta, but all the state of Mississippi, to have those children's vocabulary expanded.
Oh, I love that.
And of course, the test scores will go up.
Because the Delta scores are so low for passing the test. You know,
That's
and
true.
we have to do something about that with the teacher. We have, number one, we need to put some money into the educational system.
Absolutely correct.
Period.
I say the base pay should at least be 40.
Okay, they need to do something about paying these teachers.
Yes,
I mean, I'm not in the political world, but I'm telling y'all, you say, I was telling someone, if you say you value education, you got to put some money behind it.
Just like
you have to give the teachers resources. You have to get good teachers, and good teachers are not going to be coming where they're not going to be paid.
And we thank the legislature for the EEF fund money, but right now I still have to spend money out of my pocket.
And all the teachers do.
Yes, we have to spend money out of our pockets.
And going back to what you said about the social studies, oh my goodness.
Oh, yes.
People have to, the teachers have to teach the test so much, and we cannot blame the teachers because this is the mandate. They have to teach the test so much. Some of those other things that we knew, just like we knew our name, they don't know anymore. Even though they have Mississippi Studies, I will ask the whole group for years, what is our state motto? Don't know it. What is our state song? Don't know
State
it.
Flower.
Don't know it. It's just like, and then when I do, it only takes a little repetition because after I start reading with them and talking to them from my book, Meet My Mississippi, then it's just easy as that. Because I remember all the stuff that we learned when we were in Mississippi Studies. Because when they say, do we have a state song? I'm like, yes, we have a state song. Why don't y'all know this stuff? But anyway, that's what we're doing. We're going to be a tag team, right?
Oh, yes, we need to help with the lesson plans and everything.
Every child needs Meet My Mississippi with that, and this really goes along with the vocabulary.
It could be a resource as well.
Absolutely, that's what I'm trying to do. So, let's go back. You graduated from Mississippi Valley State.
That's correct.
Why did you decide to be an educator? You said your mom was an educator.
Yes.
And then you just said...
Yes, out of the 5 children, I'm the only educator. I think my mother sort of programmed it into me when she used to come home from school. I would have to grade the papers, put the grades back then. You had to put the grades in the grade book. And it sort of caught on. It actually caught on. I began to be interested in what did this child make? And she said, well, you can't divulge their grades, but I'll actually look at the work that they were doing. And it sort of got in my subconscious, and so naturally it came to do so. Originally, I was a computer science major, but I saw myself drifting toward education. Everywhere I went in family reunions, the children always come to me. I was always stuck with the children, and so and then we ran an after-school program, my husband and I, downtown Moorhead, for about 5 years to help children who had deficiencies in reading and mathematics as well. And so I sort of just drifted toward it, and it became my passion. And that's basically what happened.
When did you decide to do the book A is for Abigail, and how did the concept of that come up? When did you just decide, okay, what year did you publish the book?
I published the book in 2014. My daughter became pregnant with a grandson, and I knew I wanted to do something special, being my first grandson, Ryan. And I want to do something special, and I'm avid about reading. And I wanted him to be able to read early. And so we had some little difficulties, but after a while his vocabulary increased, and he's been doing a wonderful job. He can read that book. He was just saying, Grandmother, you dedicated this book to me. I said, I was excited that you're my first grandson. Now, I have a second one now, and I have to do a book for him now, another grandson. But that was the reason. And again, I say that I knew that our students, I was teaching I was in the library at the time, and I began to notice that the vocabulary was limited. And I said, well, what I would do is I would do something about food and associated with social studies, and maybe they will remember that. And that was the reason I initially got the idea for the book.
Okay.
The love of food, a new birth of a grandson, and I wanted him to be able to read along with the children of Mississippi Delta. That was initially my first passion, until I realized all the children within the state and all over the world really needs to be helped in the reading arena.
Absolutely. And we're going to put the link to you reading the book to your grandson so they can hear you reading the book and everything. We'll put that with the interview. But just to give you an idea of what she's talking about, putting food and places in there with the kids. And it's so easy to put. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it, but she did. And it's just an easy way for them to be comfortable with that. Because like it says, A is for Abigail. Abigail lives in Alaska. Abigail likes apples. See, oh my goodness. B is for Brandon. Brandon lives in Boise. Brandon likes bananas. C is for Cynthia. Cynthia lives in California. Catherine likes carrots. Okay, so it's just like, how easy is that? But who would have thought of that?
Yes,
do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Putting that all together. And then the kids kind of connect. Okay, there are so many words that begin with these A, B, C, D, and they go with things and all that. I'm loving that. Correct. And then again, going back to the back, there is an extensive vocabulary list that puts them all together.
And then at the back also it's located where they can actually work in the book themselves.
Okay.
They can actually expand their what's right here.
Okay, love that.
They can come up with their own words.
Improve your food vocabulary by substituting a word from the food vocabulary list. Okay, so they're going to have to come up with an A word. A is for something else, for the food, a different kind of food.
Yes.
Oh, I'm loving that.
Yes,
I'm loving that.
Thank you.
Okay, so tell us how we came up with the second book, Denver Joe's third grade experience. Okay.
Oh, Denver Joe, that's my heart.
Okay.
A little boy from my hometown was named Denver, but the book concept came up because I am not the traditional grandmother. I wasn't the one to bake cookies. I've always been career oriented. I always went to school. I like to eat out quite a bit.
Okay.
And so and then they always called me eccentric or different. So, and when I had my grandson again, I was inspired to write about a relationship between a grandmother and her grandchild, because we know in the state of Mississippi a lot of the children are raised by their grandparents and namely their grandmother. And so Denver Joe and his grandmother, she's the glamour grandmother, but who loves her grandchild more than any other person in the whole world, of course, because Denver Joe was her only grandchild at that time. But she was a little different. She came from the poor Mississippi Delta area, and she was embarrassed and ashamed to tell anyone because she had married a military husband. They moved to the capital, Jackson, Mississippi. She just forgot about chopping cotton and the poverty that she had experienced. And she was raising her grandson, Denver Joe. In fact, he was staying with her for the summer because his parents were away at law school. And she had a religious experience where she began to cry, and she remembered her entire background. Her husband had passed away, so she was going through like a menopause. And Denver Joe said, does menopause mean men? Oh, pause, you're pausing from men. Bright, gifted young man. So they laughed about it. And one day he noticed that his grandmother was crying. And she told him she was originally from the Mississippi Delta area, and she had a secret to tell him. And that was the secret. But not only that, he had cousins there. So they get in the car. That weekend she contacted her sister, and they take a visit down Highway 49 all the way through Yazoo. And I talk about coming through Yazoo in Burtis, Mississippi, where a tornado occurred back in the 70s. Just did a whole history of traveling. And they got to know one another. And then they actually went back to Moorhead, Mississippi. And she reunited with her sister, and she said, well, will you forgive me? Because, she had sort of risen up and got upper middle class. And her sister said, I have always loved you. And then they just began to bond together. Denver Joe's first time eating sweet potato pie, pecan pie. He got an opportunity to visit his cousins he never had. And then she takes him back to Jackson. They do a cooking experience. And then he goes back and tells his teacher, because they had criticized and say, like, what's the worst part of Mississippi? And of course they had said the Delta, and he told them, at least they have hospitality. At least they know how to cook. And that's where I'm from. That's where my grandmother. So it's a little touching experience, but it teaches the children about the Mississippi Delta and Jackson and other in-between little towns and cities within the state of Mississippi.
Okay, I'm gonna put my name on here.
Denver Joe's third grade
look,
experience.
Y'all pretend like I wrote this.
So that's what that little book does, but it's in like 3rd through 5th grade format, where I want to be fun, but I also want to be enlightening as well. Yes,
and the places in Mississippi and promoting a positive Mississippi.
That's correct.
That's what I'm all about.
Yes.
Okay, so then we're going to go back to this because you just mentioned it about Mississippi. People outside of Mississippi sometimes can't even relate to why I love it so much.
Yes.
But going even further than that, everybody that I have ever run across, especially authors, people who write, not especially authors or people who write, but anybody who comes from the Delta, they love. How many times can I say love the Delta?
Yes.
What is the magic of the Delta? Tell us about that. I don't care how poor, I don't care what socioeconomic status they have. They love the Delta.
Yes.
And tell us about that.
Yes, when the Delta is one of the poorest areas, but it has the most richest. There's no homeless people in the Mississippi Delta area because the poorest person can stay at grandma or auntie's house. Someone is going to church and someone is praying for you. So that camaraderie that we have, even if we're not in the same household, we tend to have each other's back. I've seen children, people on the street, they're not homeless, they're just on the street because they want to, but we still reach out to them. That's still my brother who's the alcoholic. We don't turn anyone away. And we tend to welcome everybody. That's the reason Teachers of America and everybody comes to the Mississippi Delta area. And they say we find the most warmth and the most loving there. We still share a lot. We have not lost the traditional Mississippi values. Our income level may be below 40,000 or 30. Might even have any people with any kind of degrees. But they still, hello Valerie, how you doing? How your mom is? Everybody know each other. And then they don't hold your past against you because they realize that everybody has sin and come short. So they're easily forgiven. And you're going to find somebody's house to eat at.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't
food,
care
of course, bonds us together.
I don't care who
food bonds us together.
If they're from the Delta, they love it.
Yes, I'm a Delta girl.
I went to a book symposium thing, and one of the authors, he said he did not even start writing or thinking about writing until he went to school at Delta State.
Yes.
And he said the magic of the Delta made him start to write because it was just something about the place.
The flat lands, the dirt, the soil, it speaks to you.
And it does, doesn't it?
It just speaks to you.
I went through there, one of the first times, I've been through there many times, but one of the first times when I really started going frequently, and I was telling my husband, I was like, oh my goodness, we were in a park going to Moorhead or somewhere, not Moorhead, I forgot where we were going. But anyway, we were going to the library and there was just these fields and fields. Yes. We were out in the middle of nowhere and I was like, I'm feeling like these people are talking to me. I could feel
the spirits of the ancestors.
You know what I'm saying? It was just, that's the way I felt. I don't care what people say about that. I'm not being wooey about it. It was just like going through that. I was like, do you hear? It's just like these. I can feel these people in these fields talking to me, working. You know, it's just that feeling. And I was like, that is crazy.
Yes.
But anyway, I have so many friends from the Delta, and I'm telling you, it's just like ain't nobody else in the world like the Delta, they say. So people love the Delta. So and they call it the most southern place in the whole world.
Yes.
Yes. And Anthony Bourdain came down.
Yes, he sure did. Greenwood, Mississippi.
What was it? He was one of the pig ear sandwiches. He just wanted the tamales. He wanted to go through
the experience.
Because that was the experience of Mississippi was the Delta.
Yes.
So wonderful. Now let's go back. Like I tell people, honey, with my interviews, we wind in and out. So when you first started in your educational career, were you teaching? You were teaching what grade and what?
Initially, I was teaching 3rd grade.
Okay.
I've gone all the way from 3rd through 6th, but my primary grade was 3rd because that's where I tend to have the most impact.
Okay.
Our children have always done well in 3rd grade, ELA. We tested high on all the state scores, so once they found that was my passion and they saw the results, that's the grade they basically kept me in.
Okay.
But we had the opportunity to take children from the Mississippi Delta to Calgary, Canada, because we won a scholarship for technology one while.
Okay.
And so that's the reason that people are saying, well, everything is technology based. I said, but they got to read this before they can understand technology. Technology, the reading test is there, but that is a great, I love third grade for some reason. And that's where our state test, where we don't want any children left behind, and the new mandates are in third grade. And that is my passion. And this is the reason they need your book and mine, just to expand their knowledge base.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we have to catch them there. We don't want the child left behind. We don't want them left behind and say, over something as simple as you reading to your child or getting some books that will encourage your child to learn vocabulary and to read.
They need a literacy.
And you can't tell people how important reading is if they don't ever see you pick up a book.
Absolutely.
If they don't ever see you buy a book.
Yes.
And say that, okay, this is important to me.
Yes.
That's where my love of reading came from. And oh my goodness, my heart swelled so big once I was going through, I was having a book signing or in the Barnes and Noble, and a little boy, he probably was like 3rd or 4th grade, and he was like walking through the store, and he said, Mama, I'm broke now. I've spent all my money. She said, well, you bought a bunch of books, right? And she said, well, your money is well spent.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yes.
See, it gives me chills.
Yes.
Y'all have to instill a love of reading for these kids to know how to read.
Absolutely
and to love
correct.
to read. It is my passion.
Yes.
It is absolutely my passion. And when people say I don't have time to read, or I don't like books, or I don't like reading, someone told me that a couple of weeks ago, and I said, please stop talking, because I'm gonna think different about you. So just let's talk about something else. It's just like it makes my heart just
mine as well, and our economical situation is going to stay the same if we do not learn how to read.
Absolutely.
Just bottom line.
Absolutely.
Reading is fundamental.
It's true. That's the little thing.
Yes.
But
absolutely correct.
It is the basis of everything.
It is.
It is the basis of everything. Oh, I'm loving what you're doing with this. Now you are a librarian, right?
Yes, I'm currently a librarian in Indianola, Mississippi, which I'm transitioning at this time, but
what sparks the kids to pick a certain book or want certain kinds of books? The colors, the what's in the book, or do they come back over and over for the same type of books? What is it that makes them get certain things?
Based in that area of interest, but of course the Diary of the Wimpy Kids was one of their favorite ones to read. And a lot of kids like Denver Joe because I read it to them first and then they began to get it, but they're not picking nonfiction texts at all, Holly. It's mostly fiction texts that they're picking, choosing to read. And it's books like Diary of the Wimpy Kid and Captain Underpants and different things like that. So I am trying to get them to read, which are excellent books, but I'm trying to get them to read more novel-based or text-based type books or informational text.
Kind of stuff to pass those tests.
Yes.
To get more, reading
get
better on this test. And a lot of times they pick certain type of books is because, like you said, the vocabulary is limited.
Yes.
So they're not going to pick up a book that they can't understand the words and whatever. That's why we have to expand their reach, expand their vocabulary. Some of these kids up north or wherever, they have these expansive, vocabularies like we can have the same.
That's absolutely correct.
But we have to teach them.
Exactly.
It's a taught thing. It's not like, I just all of a sudden, I know words.
No.
You have to say words.
You have to be exposed
to your kids.
to
You have to expose them. Just like Meet My Mississippi. I tell them in your books, read them to the kids when they're 6 months old.
That's absolutely correct.
You can start when they're a baby.
That's right.
Because they hear those words.
Yes.
They say they connect with, something on a page. That means something. Languages develop that way.
Yes.
And then with the pictures like in there that will capture them or whatever. What do you want people to learn about Valerie's books and what your passion is?
I want them to learn about Valerie's books that is designed to improve reading. And I also want to know that I care about the children here in the Delta and the Mississippi. And I want, as an educator, it is our responsibility to do what we can do to empower and inspire our children to read. Oftentimes they say, well, it starts at home. Of course it starts at home, but it's my responsibility. That's the reason I went to school, to become an educator. So once you cross my classroom or my environment, I should impact you some type of way. And these books are designed, and I've designed them to try to be colorful, especially A for Abigail, fun, so that it can engage the students. And that's one of the things they want the children actively engaged. And Denver Joe's is funny, but you're teaching history.
Oh my goodness.
So we have to compete with the video games. So we have to compete with the iPad. So our books better be entertaining as well, because otherwise we're losing our children. Through technology. But technology is fine, because I would love to see Denver Joe come into a little small movie or something like that as well. But when it boils all down, the children must learn how to read.
Absolutely.
So I want them to be known as a person who tried to inspire children, a nation, to read.
Okay, wonderful. Tell us about your website or blog or whatever you have, information that they can find out about you, where they can come to know all about your books, where they can find your books, who published your books, anything. Just tell us all that.
Okay, well, I do have a blog spot, Fairley.blogspot.com. I also have a website. I am on Facebook. My books are currently on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and places like that. Okay. The only thing with Denver Joe is I do plan to have an expanded edition, because Denver Joe is traveling to other places besides Mississippi. He's traveling in places in Mississippi. I want Denver Joe to be my trademark book.
Okay.
And A for Abigail, we want an expanded edition here. And I want it more so that a child can just have it in their hands at all times.
Okay.
So we will have a condensed edition and correct a few errors that's located within the book. But these books are currently on Amazon.
Okay.
And you can reach me on Facebook. You can. I'm not on Twitter. I am on Twitter, but I really don't know the site right now at this time. So I would have to correct that. But if you just Google my name, my books and different things will show up. And you can purchase those, and you can contact me. I will be in Collins, Mississippi this school term. And so you can contact me, or contact me via Miss Patricia here, and she will let anyone know I'm available for book signings and speaking engagements. And I will read the books if you want me to, or anything, something like that.
Now spell out your name for the website. Spell out the .com, the whole website for them.
Fairley at blogspot.com.
Okay.
Blogspot.com.
Very
Then if you type in Valerie Fairley, Amazon, I will pull up as well.
Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is where you're from again, Morehead, Mississippi. Okay, I put that in my poem, where the Southern crosses
the yellow dog.
Now
Yes.
tell us a little history about Morehead, Mississippi.
Well, Morehead, Mississippi was founded by Mr. Pond, and sits on Highway 82, home of Mississippi Delta Community College, home of Governor Phil Bryant. We even had a country singer there as well. My grandparents were some of the first landowners in the little town of Morehead. One of the apartment complexes, my grandparents sold the land for the Morehead Manors Complex. I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce there in Morehead, Mississippi. We love Morehead. It's in the process of being renovated. We have a wonderful mayor there, and he's doing a lot of things there in Morehead, Mississippi, and we invite you to come by. We have one of the top nursing programs in Morehead at Mississippi Delta Community College. Just had a new president elected. So things are happening in the small towns of the Mississippi Delta and in Morehead. So we invite you to come by for some traditional Crazy Eats Cafe just opened there. And that's where my mom is. That's where I basically received all my education, primary education at the schools there in the Mississippi Delta area. Transitioned to other places, but the Delta is still my home.
Wonderful. And people want to know where that name came from, because those were the railroads, where
Yes,
the Southern Cross and the Yellow Dog
Railroad
that was
track.
the name of the railroads, and a song by W.C. Handy, where the Southern Cross is the Yellow Dog. We have so much we could talk about. We could go on and on, because this is my fabulous friend, and we're in contact with each other every day on Facebook.
Basically.
And you need to get in contact with her on Facebook and check out her blog and check out these books. If you have a third grader, any kids in your life, young children, first, second, third, you need to be trying to get these books, because this vocabulary, that is off the chain the way you did. I love that.
Thank you.
This history book, I love that. So y'all better not miss one episode of Meet My Mississippi authors and artists on the Hill Country Network, because we have some fabulous people. And thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
my guest.
Thank you.
Tune in. Thanks.
It's inside me, girl, it's in the air. It's who I am through and through. It won't take long.